Imagine waking up to a world where 1/5 of the global energy supply simply vanishes overnight. In a narrow, 21-mile-wide stretch of water between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, giant steel tankers are sitting idle, engines cut, carrying crude oil that the world desperately needs. It is the Strait of Hormuz, the most critical maritime choke point on Earth. When the current US and Iranian standoff escalated, a de facto closure of the strait turned from a theoretical doomsday scenario into a harsh reality. As Brent crude surges past $126 a barrel, the math of global energy supply has fundamentally broken down. What happens when the arteries of the world's economy are tied off? And, more importantly, which nations are collapsing under the pressure? Who is bypassing the blockade? And why is this crisis quietly rewriting the geopolitical map for the rest of the decade? Welcome back to the channel. If you want to understand the hidden mechanisms of global power supply chains and the hidden conflicts shaping our world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Today, we are unpacking the anatomy of the Hormuz crisis. We are looking at how global powers are reacting, the countries bearing the economic shock, and the hidden routes allowing select nations to keep the lights on. Let's dive deep into the mechanics of the energy crisis. The choke point, the vital artery. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a standard sea lane. It is a critical artery of the world's economy. Under normal operating conditions, roughly 20 million barrels of crude oil, condensates, and liquefied natural gas, LNG, pass through this narrow passage every single day. That translates to about 20% of global petroleum consumption. When the US and Israeli war on Iran boiled over into the maritime corridor, Iran retaliated by restricting movement, while the US Navy deployed an enforcement blockade to lock in Iranian oil. The result? Flows have dropped sharply, sending a massive shockwave through global markets, global energy flow via the strait. Normal daily volume approximately 20 million barrels, 20%. Current stalled flow approximately 10 million barrels per day. Resulting price peak greater than $126 per barrel. The countries directly impacted by the blockage fall into two primary categories: nations that rely on the strait to export their energy, and nations whose shipping operations have been physically restricted or halted. Major energy exporters, supply blocked, Saudi Arabia. Though it possesses the region's largest spare capacity, the kingdom relies on the strait to move a massive share of its crude. It has diverted some capacity through the East-West pipeline to the Red Sea, but it is still experiencing massive losses. Iraq, almost entirely dependent on the Strait of Hormuz for its oil exports. With production sites in Basra cut off from their primary buyers in Asia, the Iraqi economy is taking a significant hit. Kuwait, completely dependent on the passage for its seaborne petroleum exports. The vast majority of its production has been constrained. Qatar, stranded LNG and oil exports. Because 19% of the world's seaborne LNG flows through this strait, Qatar has been forced to halt significant portions of its global supply, causing European and Asian gas prices to spike. Iran. While using the blockade as a strategic lever, Iran faces severe economic strain. Its primary oil terminals, such as Karg Island, are facing storage saturation and international blockades, costing the country hundreds of millions of dollars daily. United Arab Emirates, UAE. The UAE can divert some oil via its pipeline to the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, bypassing the strait. However, many of its oil and gas exports are still affected, and its shipping firms have the highest number of vessels stranded near the strait. 2. Heavily impacted shipping nations, Greece and China. Shipping and trading firms from these nations have seen the highest volume of commodity and transport vessels halted in the immediate vicinity of the strait. The cost of insuring vessels has skyrocketed, making every trip economically unfeasible. Non-affected passage countries on every country has been locked out of the Gulf through complex strategic maneuvering, selective access policies, and alternative infrastructure. Some nations have managed to keep moving energy, allowed friendly transit nations. Tehran has continued to provide selective clearance for commercial shipping vessels from specific countries, including Russia, India, Pakistan, and Turkey. Tankers belonging to or allied with these states have been permitted to navigate close to territorial waters, avoiding total disruption. Nations with alternative pipelines, Saudi Arabia and UAE. As mentioned, these two nations possess a combined 3.5 to 5.5 million barrels per day of spare pipeline capacity. They can reroute a portion of their crude entirely out of the Persian Gulf directly to the Red Sea or the Gulf of Oman. How nations are coping or failing: Saudi Arabia and UAE using pipeline bypass capacity, India and Russia using selective passage clearances, US and China shifting to non-Gulf crude suppliers, Iraq and Kuwait. Production entirely stranded. Global economic impact. The disruption has broad implications that extend far beyond the Middle East. Price surge. Brent crude has climbed past $126 a barrel, putting immense pressure on foreign exchange reserves and forcing central banks to rethink their inflation timelines. Inflationary pressures. The increase in transport and fuel costs affects importing nations globally. Japan, South Korea, and the United States are seeing retail energy costs rise rapidly. Aid and humanitarian disruption. Critical shortages of fertilizer, grain, and medical supplies are leaving humanitarian hubs in Dubai stuck. Shipping disruptions have delayed materials meant for millions of people across Sudan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. Multilateral response. Approximately 40 nations, including France, Germany, the UK, and Canada, have held discussions to plan coordinated action to reopen the route. The crisis in the Strait of Hormuz reminds us of a simple truth. Our modern, globalized economy remains fragile, resting on a few narrow waterways. Until diplomacy resolves the standoff, the world will continue to pay the price. What are your thoughts on the Hormuz blockade? Will it end in a negotiated settlement, or are we looking at a long-term economic shift? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more content on the forces shaping our world. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.